This is Lisalee, and we are back with, I think it's the third episode. I have to keep taking breaks because, I find this is like channeling Jesus is like super emotional. He's so emotional, the whole thing. And so I have to just like this is the pace that we are going is the pace that we are going. And this part about competition and the world that we're in and how it impacts everyone's ability to have the relationships that they need, and what it means to that we need each other, and you know, and like this incredible like in this intensity of compassion, like I felt. And so I'm going to move these other cards over, and I think we want to focus on what it means to understand that, you know, the problem with protecting our heart to this level of isolation is that we do in fact need each other, and you know, everything that we talked about here in terms of like dealing with everyone's shadow aspects, and what it means to start, you know, seeking and looking for and exemplifying and being these light attributes in the world. Just the difficulty in the process of being authentic and putting your authentic creative self out there, and, you know, not wanting to get hurt. That's this protecting of the heart, you know, this not wanting to get hurt. I'm going to keep that one out. But I want to focus on relationships now. And we're going to go into that. So let me just take these cards up so that we can reshuffle them in. At the bottom of the deck, you can do this. You've got everything that you need. You've got all the knowledge that you need to make the changes, to allow for the death, you know, of the old life that's not serving you, so that you can have the life that you're trying to manifest, that you want to have. You can do it. The alchemy is there. But let's look at the fact that part of what it means for your heart to heal, and for you to be able to really begin to grow and create from this beautiful space, to get past this trauma and the conditioning around this trauma. Let's look at relationships, because we need that. So shuffling this all back in. This is about you creating the new life that you are meant to have. So, yeah, you know, Jesus is basically, you know, the compassion that I felt where I was, you know, I had to like stop and just feel the feels, had a lot to do with this idea that our nervous systems are designed, like we're supposed to sort of be able to like regulate. There's such a pressure for us to be able to regulate our emotions on our own. And that's true. You know, you're supposed to be able to regulate your emotions on your own, but we're meant to be in a relationship. You know, we're meant to be supported in the process of pain heals when it is witnessed. And we have the truck going by confirming this point. But it's true. Pain heals when it is witnessed in a safe way. And when it's allowed to express and be witnessed. And so without that, you know, there's a lot of unprocessed pain that it's hard for us to get through without another person, and without the kind of relationships that can support that, being able to express this stuff. And so Jesus is kind of showing me, like, you know, boundaries mean I don't have to give what you're asking. Boundaries are not like, yeah, personal in any way, shape, or form. But a lot of times, you know, with the world that we're in, what people have to offer is like so unbelievably limited, that a lot of people walk around. This truck, I'm like hoping so much for the truck to finish. What does it do? Oh, I don't want to pause the video. I'm gonna keep it going. we're just with the truck. It's okay. But basically, there's a heaviness around this idea that we do need each other to hold space for. Oh, there. That's the blockage is moving away. Where the truck is going, maybe. Anyway, so what Jesus is saying is that, you know, this new beginning here, everybody has these boundaries of I only have so much to give, because there is like this emotional famine based on like people don't have much to give emotionally in terms of holding space to listen, to witness, and respond in a healthy way to other people's, you know, it becomes such an emotional labor because nobody has any leisure like whatsoever, and so like they have to manage their own emotions. And again, so this is just a real problem of competition of emotional resources, and the fact that we all actually need that person or that experience of being heard. And it's not even that yeah, you know, you know, therapy is like Jesus is kind of showing me that therapy can be like a tiny little band-aid on like an enormous wound. It's just a bad situation in terms of how, like the individualistic nature of our society. It's crucial. It's like critical. Everybody is feeling a deprivation that's acute. And so when we realize that we need each other to create things, you know, we need, yeah, let me just get, that wants to come out too, the 10 of Pentacles and the 8 of Wands. And let's see, this is just probably like an abomination, right? I don't know if there's any keeping it straight today. So there's this negotiating that goes on that is pretty, the competition of resources related to people's emotional labor right now, given how exhausted everybody is from having to be forced into you know, positions of like slavery, you know, tiered slavery, you know, on some level, where they're not living for their own well-being. They're, you know, living to support, you know, a system or, you know, other people. And so the emotional resources, this is where there's like ubiquitous poverty and ubiquitous deprivation and levels of intense starvation. And it leads to it being kind of scary to be close to people because, you know, people, you know, there's this deep, heavy, like really rooted pain for most people around this idea that like, I was in agony and I was in pain and like nobody saw it and nobody cared. When the reality, Jesus says, is much more likely that, you know, your pain was witnessed, but everyone was afraid to show that they cared because they were fearful that they didn't have anything to give in relationship to that, to the wounding that they were witnessing. And so it's like we're afraid to even hold space for each other because of our own deprivation and our own fear of what we don't have to give. And so Jesus is basically saying that this is like, yes, this is an epidemic, and so many of us are walking around with like no healing around like we need each other. We need to be in community. We need to be in relationships. It's too hard on any two people to be each other's everything, no matter what the circumstances. It's too hard for any 3 people or 4 people. Like it's really it takes a village to be anything, you know, to build anything. You know, here with the 3 of Pentacles and the 2 of Swords, like, without the cooperation of others, there is no progress in building anything substantial. If we do not work together to heal, you know, to heal each other and heal ourselves, if we don't understand that this is a communal effort, and, you know, there's all this competition around relationships and time spent with this one and that one, because everybody has this emotional deprivation and nobody has anything in boundaries. And boundaries just are simply not personal in any way, shape, or form. No one's boundaries are personal. Everyone's boundaries just mean I don't have anything to give, or I only have a little bit to give and I don't have that much to give, you know, but it's all, we are all coming from a deficit. To say that there's not an epidemic of lack in this department is to be completely blind and checked out. But we have an opportunity to start over. Like, we are extremely strong in our resilience. And so, you know, Jesus is saying, you know, what it means for us to take a leap of faith towards people with an open heart, looking for those light attributes, exemplifying those light attributes, is to know that we're strong enough, you know, to see the devil in the corner, you know, that we're strong enough to like have someone's reactions be, you know, a little harsh and still not be destroyed by it. Like right now, the stakes are so high with every social interaction because the need is so great, and nobody can even come close to scratching the surface of meeting those needs. And so it all feels superficial, even if it's not. Because the need to the ability for someone to show up and hold space in that space, this is why everything feels superficial and has to be. And so what it means for us to actually hold space for each other, to be able to bear witness to somebody's, you know, the Christian technology, Jesus is showing me like the Christian technology of witnessing is when you get up in front of the congregation, and this is whenever someone gives their life to God, to Jesus, and they do this whole thing, altar call, and to get up there and to say, you know, I was down and out, you know, like sleeping on a subway, you know, 15 years running from you know, the abuse of childhood. Like people come in with these heart-wrenching true stories of survival against all odds and horrible levels of abuse, and then they leave it at the altar. You know, they say, and then I met Jesus, and Jesus took this weight off of me. Jesus took the sins of the world that I had committed and that people had projected their beliefs about me and their assessment of me and all these negative ways in which they saw me and projected onto me and hurt me and misunderstood me and overlooked me. You know, like we have these long lists of like offenses. You know, Jesus is saying that like the idea of having a witness is so that you can speak it out. Everybody can say, yep, that sucks. You know, I've been in and also have this feeling of healing because they're hearing their experience and your experience, and that's bearing witness to their experience. And like, again, this is the technology of witnessing, where we speak freely of our pain without judgment in an environment that it doesn't require any one to have to hold the whole weight of it. If the community is sitting in, you know, this is something that happens in churches. If there's a whole community sitting there listening to somebody, you know, and listening to their story of heartbreak to redemption, and that's what these stories are. That's what the salvation story ends up being. You know, the church as it is using that technology, and a lot of the technology is, Jesus showed me back to like druids of salvation. These are technologies of salvation, but the doctrine itself is poison. And so, you know, Jesus is basically saying that, you know, his message, you know, he stands by it, but the message of the fundamentalists, you know, and those who lead by fear, and lead through and confuse love for obedience, all who confuse love for obedience in any way, shape, or form, and all who draw the law on each other like holding a gun. He's saying those are not my people. He's saying, and so he's really drawing this distinction really very strongly at that point. Jesus is saying, you know, like, come, that his message had been distorted, and that those are not him. Anyway, I could have gone in a direction and I couldn't catch it because Jesus was like, we're focused here. Bringing it back. What it means to bear witness is so that the community can hold it, so that it's a net, because no one person can fully bear witness to the pain of another without having to without that pain breaking their ability to contend with their own pain. Like it's a bad, like horrible situation when you have two people and they each are the only person to contend with each other's pain. They just end up contending with twice as much pain and breaking twice as hard. It doesn't work. But when it's a community, that pain can be expressed. You know, you can bear witness, and that witness of your story from heartbreak to redemption, it frees other people who have had these same situations. But in addition to that, and so we're not proselytizing, we're not talking about Christianity, we're actually, Jesus is really endorsing this idea of using the technology of bearing witness as something that we bring into our covens, and that we bring into, you know, safe spaces, you know, our collectives, you know, where we hold space for each other, where we bear witness in a way that is like no judgment, no shame, no obedience doctrine over it, and no one is pathologizing like this. It's like literally like about hearing someone's story of heartbreak to redemption and taking their truth and honoring it and holding that space to allow them to deliver it and be delivered by it. Okay, so really Jesus is endorsing this idea that we need to be able to show up for each other and know that we have the strength to show up for each other. And it's just in a new way where we show up for each other collectively, so that there's a net instead of like a noose, you know? And so when we see this lover card, you know, Jesus, great passion and devotion, unbridled appreciation of someone or something, you know, Jesus is speaking to a need here. Just gonna drink water. And right now it's a very hard need to meet, because everyone's pain needs to be borne witness to. It's part of the technology of healing. It's even part of the technology of forgiveness in some ways. Jesus is saying, you know, Jesus is saying this is really important. Jesus really wants to drive this home, you know, because we're talking about the God wound and who is God. You know, God is the collective the consciousness of a collective is God. You know, and so when we're able to, and when the currency of attention, when attention is in such demand and we have this currency of attention and things are trying to consume your attention, yeah, that's a very tricky thing, you know, because there are ways in which we are fed by that which others create that are worthy of our attention. And then and this is why we want to be choosy. And then there are, you know, and ways in which, in the same way, there's a not very much emotional bandwidth. There's not very much attention bandwidth either. And so, you know, what's taking up our time, what's taking up our creativity, what's siphoning off our life, basically, is also siphoning our ability to pay attention, to have the attention that we need, and to give the attention that others deserve. And the emotional bandwidth is in relationship to that as well. And so more time in community is required, and community acting like something that is a safe place to be is required, and we are light years away from that. We're still in competition, and then it has caused an individuality that is just we have famines at spiritual levels that are like excruciating. People are walking around like in emotional starvation. Jesus is saying, like, if you can see the eyes that I can see, and Jesus is showing me these, and it's like, oof, like, this is a heartbreak that it is a worldwide famine out there of people needing love and not getting love. You know, like the prevalence of love is there's as much love as there is being unloved, but right now this call on all of your resources and your energy, you know, into production for survival and for the purposes of survival. If you could see your spiritual body, you would see like that everyone is starving for connection with each other, but all of the connectors are going into they're being enslaved, and we know this. But as we step into this new world, we understand we need community, and we understand we need to find ways to use technology, spiritual technology, to take spiritual technology. Jesus saying, appropriate what has been appropriated. The technology of witnessing was taken. Jesus took me down this path, working with him recently with druids, and showing me all this stuff with druids. And so there's something there, I found a YouTube where there's this connection between Jesus and druids. So, but Jesus had been showing me this for until I was led there, really. This is a cool thing. I might link it below. But Jesus is all of the technology of Christianity is technology that was appropriated when other gods were defeated and taken away. And their people enslaved, and hierarchy and empire and all that. And so Jesus is saying, I want you to take back that technology and reclaim the technology of witnessing, so we can have a community where we're able to speak and be heard and heal. And that each message, contains a salvation for somebody else. And Jesus said the Messiah, what it means to be a Messiah. The Messiah brings a message. And the message of salvation is your message about your journey of heartbreak into redemption, is somebody else's salvation. And the Messiah who comes again, who comes now in the rise of the divine feminine, is that message that each heart holds, that is a particular message that everyone needs, that the collective needs to create the salvation that is what we're talking about when we talk about resurrection. And, bringing heaven to earth. There's something really powerful about community being capable of this. Jesus is telling me something so powerful. Jesus is saying that I want you to look at what human creative capacity has done. And I want you to look very closely at your ability to grow an organ in a printer, and your ability to put a glow-in-the-dark bunny, make a glow-in-the-dark bunny, CRISPR. Jesus is showing me this technology that, being able to splice genes together and create new species of beings to actually actively participate in the creation of new and different life. And what it means to participate in the creation of a type of intelligence, and what we're able to do in terms of our ability to connect to each other, and our ability to heal each other, and the miracles that we believe people can perform, that we've seen, that we have evidence of, that miracles actually exist, and then knowing inequality, we are all able to do that we can fix all of the problems of the earth if we invest in the greatest resource on our planet, which is the human capacity for creativity, magic, actual magic. If we understood that equality meant that everyone was being supported in being able to attain their potential in their creative capacity, and that is the most important resource on earth that it can create, being the technology that makes the mouse age backwards, that we already have, that we can in fact extend life near indefinitely. We can make energy, that there's nothing that magic can't produce once we understand the physics of it. And the capacity for human potential is in our ability to create. And the magic we create is self-evident before our very eyes. So if we as a species understood that the greatest resource on this earth, and the only investment worth putting all of our effort into, is valuing each and every one of us as having the creative capacity to bring the kingdom of heaven here on earth, and that we all have this capacity within, but that the only salvation, the only resurrection is something that is done together, where no one gets left behind. It is a net. It is not a system of judgment. And it is something that is participated in, understanding that forgiveness and equality are also one. And that's really weird. And, you know, I'm going to need a minute because Jesus just put me into such a trance. What time is it up here? Let's take a break. Let me take a breather.